A very good afternoon and welcome to all our viewers to Wild Earth Live at the Watering Hole, where we're starting at Tembe again this afternoon on the first afternoon of 2025. And what an unbelievable scene do we have here with elephants galore. Nice wide angle, very beautiful sight. And lots of different elephants, babies as well. Just have a look, some impala also coming down. This is incredible, an elephant with big tusks standing in the foreground to the left. And what a good way to start the first live at the watering hole of this year. Now I am Japie Potgieter. I'm going to be your host this afternoon. And I'm very excited to see what happens. If we've got such a good start. Have a look, there's babies of all ages. And this very magnificent elephant bull up here. And of course, the elephant bulls with the big tusks are well known in Tembe. I can see another elephant with a very decent pair of tusks at the back, under the shade of the tree. Fascinating to watch how these big bulls and the herd with the smaller ones are just all relaxing. Doesn't seem like there's any issues between each other, nobody's vying for space. And it looks like they are just enduring the African heat. Now, I want to remind all our viewers that this is a live and interactive show, and please, we would love it if you can send us any questions, any comments, if you want to talk about something in particular. If you want me to answer any questions, I'll try my best. I do learn from the questions myself, so I really do appreciate it. And funnily enough, it's often the questions that seem so straightforward that isn't. So you can send your questions to wildearth.tv/questions, or you can scan the QR code there at the bottom right of the screen. Of course, you can also join us on X or Twitter, where you can also send questions to, and on the website you can just register. And then you can also join us on YouTube chat at FC. So there we go. You can use #WildEarth on X, or once again you can scan that QR code at the bottom right. Ari, a very good morning or afternoon to you, and thank you so much for the Happy New Year's wishes, and same to you there in the Netherlands where you are today. I hope you enjoy the show. I know that you also like to see the elephants at Tembe, at the beautiful green Tembe. Oki Ilazi, Happy New Year to you as well, and thank you so much. Judging from all the elephants here, these elephants have certainly moved in from somewhere else, I'm sure. You can see two young babies. You can see they're nicely covered by more members of the herd. And they are currently accessing that water inlet into the pan. Now it's quite amazing how this big elephant bull, you can see, is just resting here in the foreground. Its trunk relaxed on the ground, straight down, flapping the ears and trying to stay as cool as possible, and also patiently giving the herd their chance around the edge of the water. Penelope Kenyon, I know you love Tembe. Tembe is a very special place, and we can definitely see why with all of these elephants here. Mercedes Bean, greetings from the Wild Earth crew to you as well, and Happy New Year to you. You can see these elephants are just standing around waiting their chance at the water, carefully keeping an eye on the others, checking what they're doing. It looks like it's elephants from all over. You can see there's one young bull coming into the elephants there at the back near the water inlet. It seems to be a little bit irritating to some of the females. It looks like he's interested. And then we've got that group on the left moving off. So I guess it was just a gather point, the watering hole, for these groups of animals, or the elephants, probably coming over from another area. It looks overcast here at Tembe today, and even though it's overcast, I'm sure it's still very, very humid and hot. But I know I've said it before, the elephants at Tembe always seem to be very, very relaxed, and I am sure that a lot of these elephants are well aware of each other's existence, and they have formed long-term bonds. There's a young elephant playing around with what seems to be a jacana there at the water's edge. You can see it's got its head up, trying to look as intimidating as possible to that jacana. Always fun to watch the little elephants. And basically what they're doing So these little elephants, basically what they're doing is they watch the elders. They watch their mother, they watch the other young elephants, and they watch the way that elephants react, not only to threats necessarily, but also to other animals. an elephant being the biggest out here in the African bushveld. It's normally the animal with the right of way, but a lot of their behavior is learned. And some would argue almost all their behavior is learned. And in a way, they become cultured that way. So by watching the adults react to a potential threat or an unwanted visitor, the little elephants try and exercise their own rights. So they start with creatures small, like a jacana or a guinea fowl. And as time goes on, they keep pushing. Harriet Hodgkin, Happy New Year to you, and thank you for wishing all of us Happy New Year here at Wild Earth as well as at FC. And yes, may you also have a fabbed and blessed 2025. Happy New Year to all the Wild Earth chatters. Oh wow, and you said it's your birthday today. That is very, very special, quite unique, on the first day of the year. So what a way to enter the new year. And happy birthday to you from all of us here at Wild Earth. You're also asking if more than one elephant bull can occupy a herd, and if that's the case, if there's an alpha elephant bull and female. Oh, sorry, that question is coming from Grant, not from Harriet. So this is quite an interesting question. I can see there's a number of very big elephant bulls around here currently. You can see in the size of their tusks. That elephant there at the back on the left is a huge elephant bull. The one right in the front. And obviously this prompts this question from Grant. But in reality, elephant bulls, they do occasionally meet up with herds in areas where resources are abundant, and that's exactly what we're seeing in this current situation here. There's all of these elephants who are very likely moving through the area. They had to come and have a drink since it's a hot day, and there's also loose sand, dust and mud around, so they all decided to join up here, and they happened to meet with some of the others. But generally speaking, the bulls move on their own. There is a hierarchy between those bulls, and they will fight over that hierarchy, and that is for mating rights. Essentially, it just proves to the other elephant bulls in the area that they are the biggest and the strongest, and therefore they might be fighting with, or they might try to prevent other bulls to move in on their herds. Because whatever females might be in heat in the herds, they might very likely claim the rights to go after first. So there's definite hierarchies within the bull structures, the bull groups. Often bulls travel in bachelor herds, as they are referred to, which entails an older bull with a few younger bulls, and they kind of learn from that older bull and from each other. And they will establish hierarchies within those groups, so they do become well aware of each other's status, social status, so to speak. I'm having a look at this big elephant right here in front. This guy is just dozing off. He had a very good doze there. You can see his ears, everything went relaxed there for a moment. But then within the herd, to get back to Grant's question, the herd itself is could consist of a number of different animals. They're usually all related. and it would be the mothers, or one mother, an alpha female, so to speak, which we refer to as a matriarch. She exercises a matriarchal system within the elephant society, and she will have her offspring or relatives in the herd, and they all will add to and contribute to raising the young and have their individual roles within the herd structure. But the matriarch is the one that makes the ultimate decisions. She's the one that ultimately determines where they go, when they go there, and how they would get there. And these things are mostly related to the availability of water, food, and of course safety. If a herd gets too big, some of the older cows within the herd might split off with their immediate relatives, and that's when we find different groups stemming from the same relatives in the larger area. And these elephants do recognize each other, they do tolerate each other, of course, and they also meet up and have very, very large family gatherings at some points. Leshay Roo, you are asking how long elephants can live in the wild. Now, an elephant in the wild, of course, it's got a little bit more challenging environmental factors that does affect its age in the long run. So elephants in the wild tend to live slightly shorter than those in captivity, but they can still get up to about a good 50 years, sometimes more. They have been recorded older than 60 in the wild, and I know that some elephants in captivity have been recorded to around about 70 or even more than 70. But however, for big elephants like an elephant bull, once they reach the age of about 55, that's very, very advanced. And elephants have molars which they'll shed throughout their life, and they'll have 6 sets from an early age onwards, and the last set they usually get after the age of 40, around 45, in their final years, once they come out of their prime. And that set of molars, they do try and take care, they do shake off any excessive debris like sand and things off the food they eat. But once those molars are ground down and worked through, then the elephant will struggle to find food that's easily chewable. And generally from then on, the elephant don't quite meet its dietary requirements on a daily basis. And often once those molars are worked through, the animals might die or pass away, and it's often related to nutritional stress and a lack of nutrition. But what a spectacular scene. See, there's a group of elephants that's moved off. Have a look, there's a baby drinking or trying to drink. elephant cows have their mammaries between the front legs, and you can see the trunk tip coming out from under the mum's leg there. So the baby moves the trunk out of the way and of course grips the mammary with its mouth and then squeezes the milk out and drinks directly from the mother's mammaries. You can see she's tolerating it, taking a bit of a rest there with the trunk on the tusks. It looks like a young one, already quite capable with its trunk. We'll have to have a better look once it moves out from between the mother's front legs, but it's very likely already around 2 years old. And even though the weaning process starts very, very early on with the elephant babies, it does often continue, and they do drink up until 3 years, in some cases even longer, depending on whether the mother might have a new young one or not. So let's see what happens here. Looks like this big bull has shaken off its drowsiness and it might decide to move in to go have a drink of water there. Jean, Happy New Year to you, and thank you for Happy New Year wishes to Wild Earth, and for thanking us for the valuable work. I think we are very fortunate to be able to share all of this beautiful sightings with everybody. But that's pretty spectacular. Oh, there's the elephant with the floppy ear off to the right. I didn't even see that elephant come in. Good to see some well-known characters back at the watering hole. But have a look, this big guy is just waiting. You see, he can see it's quite busy, and you can see that little one's drinking or standing under the mother, so maybe he's a little bit hesitant because he knows that the mothers might react and be a little bit well, not that happy if he approaches. So he's being very, very patient. And that's quite gentlemanly like of him. Just have a look at him. He's just checking them out very, very carefully. But as that elephant's going in there, probably going to cause a stir there around the water, we are going to head over to Stony Point to see how it's going there and see if we can link up with some of the cormorants. And here we go. Some cormorants. Looks like some Cape cormorants from where I'm sitting. can see there's cormorants under the water, cormorants diving. Oh, one coming in there at the back, quite busy here. This is quite cool. You can see how quickly they're swimming underneath the water, and they're probably after some small fish in this intertidal zone. This is quite spectacular to watch. There we go. Two of them fighting about something, not sure exactly what that might be. It might also be something else, maybe a crustacean of some sorts. But that's pretty cool. You can see it's playing around with it a little bit. George, you saying that the water looks very, very inviting here at Betty's Bay? Indeed it does. It looks extremely inviting. You can see there, looks like heart-lopped gull there, sitting on the rock next to the water. It looks like a beautiful day here. I can see it's quite sunny, and no surprise in these birds being in the water. And we can see, it's interesting, they have these short, very, very quick dives that they do. And they've got their very, very strong webbed feet to propel them under the water, of course. They sleek bolt. Oh, there, that one's got something big. What's that? Looks like a fish. And there's a... Oh, wow. I'm not sure if that is a fish, but that's quite big. That's certainly a mouthful. Joan Mello, I know you love Stony Point, and yes, indeed. What a spectacular sight here. I don't know what that was, but it seems to have been left. So I don't think it was something worthwhile, or potentially not even food. Sometimes when these birds dive under the water, there's such a lot of competition that they might even grab whatever comes up, just so that the other one don't grab it. And have a look, there's the rest of them. Sitting out on the banks, the whitewashed cliffs. The solid fortitude and roost, where they all gather, different species. Now, I've also heard that apparently, occasionally I do see crowned cormorant here. From what I can see, it looks mostly like Cape cormorant, and I saw some white-breasted cormorant. Harriet Hodgen, you are saying that it's a stunning day in Cape Town and it's perfect beach weather. If Stony Point is anything to go by, then indeed I agree with you. It looks like a spectacular day for beach activities. But I'm sure the beaches will be packed indeed. And have a look. You can see how the cormorants are packing the cliffs. It's nice and warm, so they can dive, they can get as much food as they want. And when they're out in the heat, you can see the wings spreading out there, so that would help them drying their feathers out, but also it aids them with their digestion. You can see one of the white-breasted cormorants here in the foreground, turning with the white breast facing our side. And there we have some penguins. Interesting, I haven't noticed too many of the penguins in the water, but what I can see there, what I find very interesting, is the Egyptian geese in the shallow water. Egyptian geese, they certainly are a jack of many trades. Wherever there is water, there is very likely an Egyptian goose as well. See the penguins also just standing out there basking a little bit, their wings slightly open. Stevie, a very happy new year to you, and thanks for the new year wishes to all of us here at Wild Earth, and happy new years to all the viewers wherever they are in the world. And you say you are a rather fragile fan of the show in Scotland, and that you've learned so much in only a few months. Well, I'm very, very happy to hear that. That's very, very good news. I hope you are not too much of a fragile fan, but I am very, very happy that you can get to learn from the show. I think it is a spectacular window into some of the natural spaces that Southern Africa and Africa's got to offer. But I'm currently based in the low veld, where it is steamingly hot and dry currently in the summertime, so the water here at the beach at Stony Point certainly looks extremely inviting. I wouldn't mind having a swim. You can see, just have a look at those penguins just standing dead still, watching the Egyptian geese coming in. You can see all the rocks packed with the cormorants. Animal lover, you are asking whether penguins migrate, the African penguins. Not to my knowledge, to be honest. As far as I know, they're usually quite sedentary, but the young ones do disperse from their natal colonies, and they usually move up along South Africa's western coast, and they often move up along that. Usually according to the availability of food in areas that's quite productive. Now, I know that some of them have been known to move quite far, but they're generally not too far from the breeding colonies. But yo, that was quite nice to have a beautiful check-in at the beach here at Stony Point. I think we're gonna leave him for now and head over to King's Camp for a kudu. Oh, not a kudu, but very close to a kudu, a male inyala. A nice, big, strong male inyala. What a beautiful view. And he must have been very, very thirsty to come out of the thick bush and come and have a drink right in the open. But indeed, family of the kudu. They are related, the spiraled horned antelopes, as well as the eland and the bushbuck, and then some other members of which we find very few, if any, in South Africa. But what an interesting contrasting landscape from coastal South Africa, where we had such a perfect day for the beach, and now over here we have a nice dry summer bushveld landscape. So the Inyala's moved off, so we're going to head over to Nkoro, where we have an actual kudu. Whoa, that is incredible. Not just one. Not just one. A whole bachelor group of 5 big male kudus. What a spectacular sight. And what I do like to note here is, yes, they were out in the open to come and drink. Both the kudu as well as the Inyala we saw earlier at King's Camp. They are generally quite nervous drinkers. Have a look. This one at the back is just stopping to feed on something, but that's normally what they do the moment they hit the denser vegetation line on the outskirts of the clearings. That's usually when they'll slow down and start to feed. But have a look at how well their camouflage serves them here. They perfectly blend in, kind of just disappear into the landscape like that. And they can often even stand in the shade for quite a while without being spotted. And what a spectacular group of large male produce. Some of these guys sport some amazing horns. Spasyankov, you saying Happy New Year? Happy New Year to you. Oh wow, and an elephant with rather big tusks drinking. But Spaz, Happy New Year's to you. You have missed a bit of elephant action and Nyala, but other than that, any time to join in is a good time. There's always something happening, as we can see here. An elephant cooling down on a very hot low-felt day. And what a spectacular specimen indeed. Nice to see an elephant with large tusks in this side of the bushveld as well. I know Tembi sports some magnificent specimens, but the Lowveld also have their elephants with large tusks, even though they're not seen that commonly. They are indeed around, and some of them have magnificent tusks. Now what is quite interesting about this elephant, besides the fact that his tail tip is only got 1 or 2 hairs left, but these tusks are quite thick at the base. And from what I can see, it doesn't seem like this elephant is too old. So I think he might still have a bit of a growth spurt later in his life. Have a look. Now the big guy is still cooling down. He's taking whatever time he's got, which is all the time in the world, to be honest. Where his friend, on the other hand, is just waiting. So this is a classical example of a smaller bachelor herd. Sometimes it might even just be 2 or 3 animals. A big elephant bull, obviously much older than the other one, at least from what it looks like here. And the younger one will follow carefully, obviously not trying to get in the way or irritate the bigger one. And he will never directly compete with them for maybe even a number of years, but he will follow, and that way he'll learn of routes towards resources, how the elephant herds move in the general area. So valuable information that will get passed down. Now he's just relaxing a little bit. Now that he's got that cool mud on the skin. You can see that there is a bit of a breeze going there, so he's probably just standing out here on this rise, enjoying that cool wind coming over the skin now. But I find it always quite interesting how they can just take all the time in the world, should they wish to. And other times they literally just stop by quickly and move on. Now from the looks of it, it doesn't look like there's been too much other movement around this watering hole today. At least not recently. You can only see the 1-2 wet patches where these two have been wetting themselves now. Not much else. You can see in the background how hot it's been. The green grass in this area have already started to brown out. And it seems like the other elephants decided to go back for a little bit more. On hot days like this, the visits to watering holes are a little bit more frequent for elephants. Their requirements go up a little bit, but also the length spent at it. Depending on the time of day, should the elephant find a watering hole without too much action at it, cooling down might be a few steps. And it might be a layered process, starting with the first, letting it dry a little bit, then adding more, letting it dry. In that case, they can spend quite a bit. And also with age comes experience. And this elephant is certainly very, very sure about how much he will need to cool down on a hot day like this. And who knows, maybe his plan from here is to move quite a bit of distance, or go stand somewhere in the shade and doze a bit. And that younger one almost looks slightly impatient. But not much you can do. Hilary B from the UK. You are saying a very, very happy new year to everybody at Wild Earth, and that you hope 2025 brings you all everything you wish for and so much more. Thank you so much for those very beautiful wishes, and the same to you. We hope that 2025 is a spectacular year, filled with lots of great animal sightings, and all the other wishes. Now this is such a relaxing scene to watch this, and I'm so happy to see how much respect that younger elephant is showing to this older one, allowing him to take all the time he needs to cover all that hard to reach areas, behind the ears, on the back, underneath, and then on the other side. Almost a bit of a pattern. Side, middle, side, side, middle, side. And then often on the head every now and again. Now we're seeing him about to turn away from the water, or is he gonna go for one more layer? Let's see. Nope, he seems done. He's quite well muddied up now, all over, all the vitals, the back, the shoulders, the head. You can see behind the ears and then underneath. So from here it should be interesting to see what they do. Maybe that was just a momentary pause to focus on the surroundings. Or maybe he's just standing towards the wind to dry a little bit. Now he's going to remove all the irritating excess bits. And the smaller folds, often in the ears and around the eyes. You can see that blacksmith lapwings just come in to come and see if there's any small critters that might have been flushed during this process where the elephant came and cooled down. And of course that provides the bird with a chance to pick up any insects moving around or any insects coming towards the moisture. Ah, okay. I guess that's why he didn't just move. I did see the trunk had a little bit of a curl towards that direction where this elephant came from now. So maybe that was what he was paying attention to, and maybe they were just waiting . Another nice big elephant bull. It seems like he's almost waiting for that one to make a move. There we go. Look, he's just standing still. He's giving a glance back. I'm sure he's just looking what that other elephant's doing. It looks like this one's going in for that spot. So maybe he was just waiting until the big one moves off for the ideal spot to come cool down. That's what it seems like. There's an interesting interaction going on here with these two. And this elephant bull at the back is quite large as well, but the one in front's definitely older, and I'm interested to see what happens here. It looks like they're very, very aware of each other's presence. But it does look like there's a bit of respect shown to that one at the back with the bigger tusks. And I was wondering at one point, I thought he might just stop and dust himself with some dust from the road, but I might also be picking up on other things like a scent. It looks like there is a breeze going, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just stand out like this in the sun a little bit. And I wonder where the younger one went to. Looks like he couldn't wait any longer and decided to head off, maybe to a bit of shade. But it looks like the trunk tips are up and just investigating the breeze, so they might be picking up on the scent of something. It's a very interesting bit of behavior happening here, but I think while these elephants decide what they want to do, we're going to head over to Shalati Sunrise for now and see what's happening there. And what a spectacular view of two amphibious buffaloes. And I always like seeing these guys. They are definitely some of my favorite. And when you see them standing in the water like this, you can also see the bulk of that body cooling down right in the river. Clearly no fear of the potential danger that any crocodiles can pose. Brilliant spot to come lay down and ruminate while cooling down. One of the advantages of the ruminant's digestive system and process is that they can spend some time digesting while taking a rest. At least he's kind enough to relieve himself downstream from the guy in the water. Another one laying down. And there you can see the jaw rotating. Just chewing the cud while having a look out. Now these two guys look quite mature, quite old. You can see the missing fur around the eyes. You can see there's some plant material adorning the head of the one on the left. So I'd say it's quite safe to say that these are two of the older mature buffalo bulls. Hence the reason why they're on their own here. They tend to prefer the easy life, away from the herd, in areas with good food and enough water. So all their requirements in one area. Having said that, should a herd come through, I'm pretty sure they'll still join up with him. You You can see, look at those thick reed beds there on the water's edge. And then right underneath those reeds, the perfect shady spot for them to hide away. Now I'm sure that whatever might be out of the water up on the banks might be a more serious threat than being in the water here. It also speaks quite a lot of their confidence. Very big and bulky, strong animals. Also extremely short-tempered by nature. There's not much out there that these guys fear. In fact, they don't hesitate to stand up against anything really. Even their sworn enemy, the lion, and a big buffalo like one of these guys. Not even the lion on its own has a sure chance of posing it any real danger. Let's see what's happening here. I thought maybe that one might tell the other guy that he's starting to move in on his space. Kairos, you saying Happy New Year to everybody. Amphibious buffalo, lol. Yes, indeed, amphibious buffalo. Hence its other common name, or its former common name, the water buffalo, African water buffalo. One of the common names that they've gathered over the years due to their nature of being so amphibious and being so dependent on water. Nowadays they're mostly just referred to as the African buffalo due to their widespread distribution throughout Africa. They were also known as the Cape buffalo, and they used to be found all throughout Africa, all the way to the tip at Cape Town. And I can't help but wonder what impressive wetlands the Cape used to hold back in the day, and the sizes of the herds of wild animals that had to come down to those before the arrival of Europeans. It must have been a spectacular sight indeed. Today there are still small colonies of what's considered pure Cape buffaloes down that side. And during the early 1900s, a plague called the rinderpest spread throughout Africa from the north down, and it affected the bovine numbers in Africa severely, almost completely annihilating the buffalo numbers throughout Africa, but especially in South Africa. It had devastating effects on their numbers. So the Cape subspecies, so to speak, has been spread over the years, bringing in new genes into different areas. These animals have certainly been moved around quite a bit from different gene pools all over. But Lady Macbeth, you're saying there's plenty of crocs all over. I am sure there are. In fact, I know for a fact I've seen crocs in this region, some big crocodiles. So I am very, very much astounded at the bravery or stupidity of these two. But I think, to be fair, they would know what they are capable of and what poses a threat. So I do not think that they are too worried. It looks like that one on the right is actually drinking water with its mouth in the water there. Living the good life, that's for sure. And rightfully so. They look like they've been tried and tested. You can see the thinning of the fur, especially on the back side. The worn boss, which is the helmet-like structure at the top. These guys are rather old and seasoned travelers, and I'm pretty sure that they've got a lot of experience and stories to tell. But still they are in a group, two of them. They got similar interest. All the good food in this area around the river. And the access to water is arguably what keeps them here, but they certainly are fortunate enough to have each other and in a way watch each other's backs. They've become comfortable with the presence of the other one to the point where they don't mind keeping an eye out. So in that regard, I think two is better than one. Oh. And now he's left alone. Well, that was quite a fascinating look at the peaceful midday routine of these two buffaloes. But I think we'll leave them in peace here, and we're going to head over back to Tembe to see if the elephants are still around the water. Two, for now that I can see, two elephants. One with big tusks still at the water inlet. Now I can't see yet if this is the same guy that was waiting so patiently, and then eventually, just before we left earlier, wandered over in the direction of the group standing around the pipe or the outlet to drink. It looks like him. Yo, just look at that. What a beautiful animal. So you can see it's just sucking it directly out of the inlet and then squirting it into his mouth. I'm assuming the herd just came and drank and then left, as they often do. They don't tend to spend as much time or for such a long period of time around the water as some of the bulls do. They will move maybe into the denser bush to feed, or to go relax there away from the water. Less likelihood of encountering marauding male elephant. The male elephants can often put a little bit of stress on the herds, especially if there is females that might be nearing estrus or coming into heat, and you find that the male elephants might wander over. And with all the babies around, the older elephant cows want to generally separate themselves and make sure that the males don't come and upset the balance within the herd, so to speak. And it was interesting to notice how quickly it's become quiet around the watering hole. Animals come and go, and they all have their own little routines and plans for the day. Have a look at that. He's patiently just standing there. He knows that there's no other pressure on now. So he can have his full drink. It's always, I find it amazing how they can just stand like that for quite a while. When they rest, it's so much different from what we might expect. Have a look at this elephant just draping its trunk over its tusk. Very, very impressive tusks. And certainly for an elephant it doesn't seem nearly as old as the one we saw earlier in the Sabi Sands. He's got very long tusks. It does seem to be slightly thinner at the base, but it would be very, very interesting to see in a few years how this elephant's tusks would look. However, while he's resting near the water inlet, we're going to head over to Kwamaritane and see what we've got there. And we've got some weavers. Quite a few weavers with their securely built little nests right on the edge of their branches. And I can see that one seems like it's still adding to the nest, where the browner three on the right seems like they've already been tried out. Now it might be the same weaver's nests, these actually, and the one on the left is just one of the newer additions. Now you can see when they built these nests, part of the process is not just the nest itself, but also the leaves on the branch closest to the nest often gets cleaned off. And we can see where the other nests, it seems like that's already been done. There we go. And what a work of art. Beautifully built nest. By the looks of it, the southernmost weavers. And I'm pretty sure that just from seeing that weaver jump between the nests there, I'm sure that that might be all nests built for these 3 or 4 females that he's got. These birds do practice polygamy, meaning one male might have more than one female that'll have his eggs. An interesting thing about these birds is often in the wild you have more than one male in a colony, and they do roost and nest in colonies. But you do also find some very fortunate birds with very good spots where there is only 1 or 2 males in the area, and that seems to be the case here. Maybe just 1 male with a few females here. So he's been busy indeed, and you can be quite proud of his weaving work. And constant maintenance, always just checking it out carefully. Oop, there comes the female, making sure that it is stable and sturdy to weather whatever nature might throw at it. And just have a look there. So that one's still under construction. Interesting, you can see how carefully and meticulously it's weaving those grass strands through. Now what's interesting is only once the female accepts the nest will the male construct the entrance into this nest. As we can see with those others. And by the looks of it, with his success rate, it looks like that might be what he's doing currently. Now, usually by the end of this breeding season, those nests will stay there and they get used by other species, whatever that may be. And it is quite a sound construction in this case, hanging over the water. And here's the proud little constructor. And what a good spot. Looks like he's taking a bit of a break from building and keeping the females happy. Only a short break, and the rest all in a day's work. But of course, thorn trees are often preferred nesting sites, especially over the water. It just minimizes access for critters without wings, especially critters without wings or legs. Snakes is a major threat to them. And then of course also cuckoos. Cuckoos are brood parasites, meaning that they will enter the nests of others and other birds and have them raise their young. And in that case, the Diederik's cuckoo is a brood parasite of the southern masked weaver. And what do we have here? That's quite an interesting looking phenomenon. So that is, looks like a old foam nest frog's nest. And it looks all dilapidated. Hanging parts of it seems to be dried out already. So I'd say it's safe to assume that a lot of these little tadpoles got dropped into the water after leaving the nest. These nests are constructed over water, and that foam acts as a protective layer to the little ones, which eventually, when they hatch, drop directly into the water from there. And then that foam-like structure looks all dirty and worn like that. In the back there I can see some terrapin climbing out. Coming out to bask a little bit. What a busy little pool of water this is. All kinds of little critters all around. Ah, and what do we have there? Blacksmith lapwing that was mating. And something else. Well, it seems to be a dove of some sorts. Possibly a laughing dove. Alright. Blacksmith lapwings mating. Quite interesting. I wonder, their nest will be well hidden amongst the debris here, somewhere not too far from the water's edge, I'm sure. And have a look. There we have the terrapins. It looks like there's quite a pile of terrapins there. One smaller one sitting out on its own rock to the right. Penelope Kenyon, I see you've made a comment on how busy the weavers are. You're saying that they're the busiest of birds. They are indeed. They're very, very busy. Always very noisy as well. But always, especially during the breeding season, which is now. And they are very, very busy, very active. And you can imagine they also spend a lot of time foraging for food to maintain that energy levels. So indeed an extremely busy bird. And CJ, you're asking until when do we refer to birds as juvenile? So that is a very interesting question. Generally speaking, to be honest, I personally, when I see a bird, if it's not an adult, I refer to it as a juvenile, which is actually incorrect. There are very specific stages within a bird's development that they can be referred to as different things, and yeah, we do get juveniles and we get subadults, but with juveniles, generally it's the younger bird, like just out of the fledgling stage, and then usually just before they get their final plumage, we would go with an immature and then immature or subadult, and then we would go with a adult once they go into their adult plumage, and that would differ from bird to bird depending on the size. Some birds are quite long-lived, some are shorter-lived, but some birds take years to reach those final stages, and some birds develop quite quickly. So it depends on the species as to exactly, but generally there is a gradual change in the behavior, well, in the feathers, the plumage itself, and also the behavior of the bird, and from throughout different stages of development. Now we can see it seems like it's quite hot here at Kwamaritane. And even though this weaver's been quite busy, you can see the mouth is open. A lot of effort keeping the feathers neat and tidy and raising chicks. So it looks like it's taking a bit of a breather. Not always did you get to see a weaver sitting that still. So that was quite nice. Females obviously looking vastly different than the males. And they can be quite tricky to identify if you don't have a good view, and especially if the male's not around. Quite an interesting habitat here at Kwamaritane. I saw the little koppie or outcrop back now when the camera zoomed out earlier. Quite an interesting phenomenon found in this area in particular. And in fact, the whole Pilanesberg Park is almost like a bit of an outcrop out in the middle of nowhere. Adding to its diverse vegetation and obviously wildlife found in the area. And just have a look at that. Quite hilly country, large rocky outcrops. Very, very interesting geology and area here. But we'll leave the hills of Pilanesberg and let's head over to East Africa to Lentore and see what's happening there. What do we have here? A beautiful thorn tree of some sorts. Oh wow. What is that? That looks like a bird of prey. I'm not 100% sure what that might be actually. Just have a look at that. It was quite a beautiful view of the bird. Well hidden up in the tree. Now, if I had to take a guess, I'd say it's very likely a great sparrowhawk. What a good spot to be sitting perched right above water. Now, in the past we've seen here at Lentori where how many little birds come down to have a drink at the edge of this water. And then the other day we also had those ground squirrels moving around here. So this is quite an interesting development. Obviously we weren't the only ones to notice. And this sparrowhawk certainly has a good perch hidden away out of plain sight, but you can see it's constantly keeping a good eye onto the water's edge there. Just have a look at that, carefully scanning the area, seeing what's moving past. And birds like this, they will go after other birds, and they often hunt birds, especially ground-dwelling birds. So Hilary B from the UK, you're asking, well, first you're saying, as an example, there are different species of pigeons all over the world, and you're asking if they all build the same type of nest in the same place, around a branch or so forth. Not always, Hilary. That's a very good question. I do not know necessarily. I know that there are certain species of birds that nest differently in different regions, and also depending on the particular species, they might have different reasons for nesting in different areas, and it very much depends on where they are found and what's available. I know some birds are also very, very adaptable, and they nest with whatever material they might find, especially some birds that nest in urban areas. So you'll find often, especially pigeons as an example, some of them, or doves, they might nest out in little scrapes that they line with twigs and so forth, often in the branches of trees or on cliffs, depending on the species. And then you get those, it's quite well adapted to the city life. One of those being in this region where I am from, the rock pigeon. And the rock pigeon also regularly and quite easily nests up on high buildings. Well, the rock or speckled pigeon, as they are known. But what a beautiful view of this bird here. Carefully scanning, those eyes are super sharp and they don't miss anything, so any movement down there will be picked up. Sandy Franklin, you are saying good morning wild earthlings and a happy new year. Happy new year to you too, Sandy. I hope it is a spectacular year for you, and thank you so much for the good wishes. Spassi Yankov, you are asking how sharp the eyesight of the African hawk eagle is. It is very, very, very sharp. They have, if I'm not mistaken, quite a lot, like more than 4 or 5 times the amount of photoreceptors that our eyes have, and they can spot things from very, very high up, and they've got incredible eyesight. And they won't miss anything. And I know I've seen some videos of birds high up, where they put cameras on some of these hawks and eagles, and then from way high up. And I'm thinking of one video in particular where there is I think it is a golden eagle, and it flies in to a guy down on the ground, and you see it from miles away. You start to see this bird approach, which is very, very interesting to watch. And you don't see the person, of course, until the last moment, and it is spectacular to watch. Now, what I am seeing is I can see that there is feathers. You can see the legs stretched out of this bird, and there's feathers all the way down to the foot of this bird, which is generally something that is significant of eagles especially. So I think I made a bit of a misdiagnosis. Maybe it was also due to the fact that my sizing of the bird was a bit off. But I think with that, I'd say that this is an African hawk eagle. And not the great sparrowhawk, as I incorrectly named it as earlier. So have a look at that. The bird's just stretching that foot. You can see the talons kept closed there, but you can clearly see the leggings of feathers all the way down to the foot. Eagle lover, you saying, or you're asking if the bird of prey is possibly a juvenile osprey. I don't think so. I think it is a African hawk eagle. But it certainly did give me a bit of a head scratch there, just because of the regional different birds found throughout East Africa. I am not always 100% sure exactly what I'm looking at, and there are slight differences in appearance, and therefore I need to make sure. Also, when looking at birds on a camera or through the camera, it's a little bit different than being there and seeing them with your own eyes or through binoculars. So things like the general size and shape isn't always so accurate viewing them through the camera. So I need to make sure. And then of course there's also birds that I've never seen in my life, which I would love to see. But one of the biggest reasons in this case why I will say it's not a juvenile osprey is due to the reason that we can see the leggings of feathers all the way down to the feet. And with osprey, usually the lower part of the legs are featherless. But what a beautiful bird indeed. Quite an interesting pose. I can't say I've ever seen a bird of prey sit with its legs stretched out for such a long time. But you can see every now and again something's piquing their interest. If we look carefully, we can just see that head moving, automatically following whatever it's looking at very, very carefully. And I can just see minute changes in the size of the pupil, meaning that it's focusing as it's moving the head. Lady Macbeth, you're saying it's a nice raptor. Indeed it is. A very, very nice raptor. A very interesting raptor. The African hawk eagle is a very agile, extremely good hunter. Quite an interesting bird in that it hunts in pairs as well. And you often have one lower down like this. They specialize in hunting ground-dwelling birds, and one of their favorite prey is guinea fowl, at least in the region that I mostly work and live in. Penelope Kenyon, you saying it's one of your favorite birds of prey? I do also particularly like them. They have quite a beautiful appearance in their sleek black and white. Being a smaller eagle, they're also quite specialized. Very, very beautiful bird indeed. Oh, and there it goes. That's quite interesting. It's been spooked by a baboon. That is very, very interesting. Two baboons up in the tree. So basically that baboon just came up to come and steal that perfect perch. But interesting that the bird tolerated them for that long. I mean, the bird must have been aware that the baboons were approaching and that they're even moving into the tree. And it stayed there right up until last minute. Always fascinating to watch the relationship between different creatures out here. You see, I would have expected that bird to fly off much earlier, but there's definitely no way that the baboons would have sneaked past the bird and climbed the tree unknowingly. Maybe the bird is so aware of what's happening, and it obviously didn't want to have to use or waste any energy up until last minute. But yeah, very interesting. And of course, who else but the baboon? What a nice relaxing spot for these baboons to sit. The eagle had the good perch, the baboon came to take over. Not for very long. Just have a look at that. The whole troops moved into the water's edge. Maybe that's what the eagle was looking at. Spotting all these different baboons going about their business here. And look at those two relaxing. Nice, beautiful, relaxing sight of the baboon troop under the tree near the water's edge here. Harriet Hodgson, you're saying thank you to me and the FC for a lovely New Year day, and to all the watering holes, and you're hoping to see us all tomorrow. And Joan Mello, you are also saying the same to Wild Earth and me, and I'm very happy that you enjoyed the show. And we are very, very happy to hear how everybody has enjoyed all the antics of the different animals we saw around the water today. So thank you so much to everybody that joined us this afternoon. On the first day of 2025, I've got a feeling it's going to be a great, great year, and we really hope to see everybody join us again tomorrow to see what all the animals in the different areas are up to. And from all of us, have a wonderful day and enjoy the 1st of January.